Imagine a battlefront, no bullets, no explosives, just an eerie silence, and then the unseen enemy strikes. This isn't a scene from an avant-garde sci-fi movie, but a stark reality that has unfolded countless times in the annals of warfare. We're talking about a class of weapons that are as terrifying as they are invisible: chemical weapons. These silent killers have been used to devastating effect, turning the tides of battles and wars and leaving behind a legacy of suffering and death. But what makes them so deadly? Well, it's all about the chemistry. These weapons use a variety of chemicals that can cause severe harm to the human body, often leading to a painful and slow death. But it's not just the deadly properties of these chemicals that make them so feared. It's also their invisibility and unpredictability. You can't see them, you can't smell them, and you often don't know they're there until it's too late. They can seep into buildings, penetrate clothing, and even get into your body without you realizing it. When these chemicals enter the body, they wreak havoc on the human system. Some attack the respiratory system, choking victims from the inside out. Others target the nerves, causing uncontrollable muscle spasms and paralysis. Some cause severe burns and blisters, while others attack the body at a cellular level, causing irreversible damage. These silent killers don't discriminate. They don't care about age, gender, or rank. They just do what they were designed to do: kill. And they do it efficiently, silently, and without mercy. So, what are these invisible, deadly substances? Hold on to your curiosity, we'll dive into it soon. Before we disclose the first silent killer, remember to like, subscribe, and leave your comments. Thanks for helping us reach 2,000 subscribers. Now, let's dive into the world of an invisible enemy, a substance so lethal that it can kill without leaving a trace. Imagine an odorless, colorless, tasteless compound that's able to penetrate human skin and clothing. Once it enters the body, it wreaks havoc on the nervous system, leading to a range of horrifying symptoms. The first indications are often subtle: a sudden headache, difficulty breathing, a feeling of weakness. Then, as the poison spreads, the symptoms become more severe. Vision blurs, pain erupts, the body convulses. Ultimately, the heart and respiratory system can fail, leading to death. This chemical weapon is not a quick killer. Its victims suffer, trapped in their bodies as they slowly shut down. There's an antidote, but it must be administered almost immediately after exposure. Even then, survival is not guaranteed. Those who do survive often live with long-lasting effects, such as neurological damage and psychological trauma. Now, you may be wondering, what is this invisible enemy? This silent killer? It's a substance first synthesized in the mid-20th century. Developed initially as a pesticide, it soon became clear that its potential for harm extended far beyond insects. It's been used in conflicts around the world, from the streets of Syria to the subways of Japan. It's a weapon of mass destruction, banned under international law, yet still it surfaces time and time again, bringing death and devastation in its wake. So the first silent killer, ladies and gentlemen, is sarin gas. Moving on to our next chemical, one that suffocates its victims, leaving them gasping for air. This invisible terror works by attacking the respiratory system, the very thing that keeps us alive. Imagine inhaling a substance so deadly that every breath becomes a struggle. Your lungs feel like they're on fire, your throat tightens, and all you want is a breath of fresh air, but it's just out of reach. This chemical, once it enters the body, begins a horrific process. It reacts with the moisture in your lungs, creating hydrochloric acid. Yes, you heard it right, acid inside your lungs. This acid starts to eat away at the tissue lining your respiratory tract, causing severe inflammation and damage. The body, in its desperate attempt to protect itself, responds by producing thick, sticky mucus. This mucus clogs up the airways, making it increasingly difficult for oxygen to reach the lungs. The heart starts to pound, trying to pump what little oxygen is left to the rest of the body, but it's a losing battle. The lack of oxygen causes the body to go into a state of shock. The skin turns blue, the pulse weakens, the body starts to convulse, and then everything goes silent. A chilling end, isn't it? Now let's reveal the identity of our choking terror. The culprit behind this horrifying scene is a chemical that's all too common. It's used in our everyday life, in our swimming pools, in our drinking water, and even in our bleach. It's a yellow-green gas with a strong, pungent smell, almost like a swimming pool but stronger, more suffocating. It's none other than chlorine gas. Chlorine gas was first used as a weapon during the First World War, causing devastating effects. It's a gruesome testament to the destructive power of chemical warfare, a power we must strive never to unleash again. The second chemical weapon, the choking terror, is none other than chlorine gas. Next, we have a chemical that doesn't just harm, it torments its victims with a burning sensation. This agent is infamous for the painful and destructive effect it has on the human body. It's not just a simple skin irritant, it's a silent tormentor that sears the flesh and eyes with an agonizing burn. Imagine, if you will, a substance so potent that mere contact with the skin results in large, painful blisters. It's as if your skin is being consumed by an invisible fire, each moment intensifying the pain. The skin, the body's protective barrier, is rendered useless against this insidious attacker. The horror doesn't end there. This chemical also targets the eyes, causing unbearable pain, inflammation, and, in severe cases, blindness. It's a ruthless invader, attacking the most vulnerable areas of the human body, causing a level of suffering that's hard to comprehend. The pain is just the beginning. The burns can take weeks or even months to heal, leaving the skin scarred and disfigured. The eyes, if not blinded, may never fully recover. And the psychological trauma, the memory of the burning pain, can last a lifetime. This cruel chemical is not a product of modern warfare but a relic from the First World War. Developed by German scientists, it was used with devastating effect on the battlefields of Europe. Despite its age, it remains one of the most feared chemical weapons due to the intense suffering it inflicts. But what is this chemical? What is this invisible fire that burns and blinds? It's a compound known as bis-chloroethyl sulfide, but you probably know it by a different name. A name that evokes images of soldiers, huddled in trenches, gas masks obscuring their faces, fear in their eyes. The third chemical weapon we discussed today, the one causing a burning sensation, is mustard gas. And now, the final chemical on our list, an agent that disrupts your very nerves. Imagine a substance so potent, a single drop on the skin can cause fatal disruption of the nervous system. This is the power of our final silent killer. This chemical works by blocking the signals between your nerves and your muscles. When these signals are interrupted, the body's functions start to fail. Think for a moment about the complexity of our nervous system. It's a vast network of connections that control every single movement we make. From the blink of an eye to the beating of our hearts, everything is governed by this intricate system. Now, imagine a chemical that can disrupt this entire network. The symptoms begin with uncontrollable twitching and convulsions as the body's muscles start to contract uncontrollably. This is followed by paralysis, as the muscles responsible for movement stop receiving signals from the brain. The victim is then unable to move, speak, or even breathe on their own. The final stage is respiratory failure, as the muscles that control breathing are affected. This chemical is so dangerous it's classified as a weapon of mass destruction by the United Nations. It's not something you would find in a regular laboratory, but rather, it's a weapon used with the intention to cause harm on a mass scale. The chemical we've been discussing is known as VX gas. It's colorless, odorless, and tasteless, making it virtually undetectable. This deadly nerve gas was first developed in the mid-20th century and has since been banned by international law due to its devastating effects. But despite these regulations, the existence of VX gas is a stark reminder of the lengths humans can go to when it comes to developing weapons of destruction. The final silent killer, the nerve disruptor, is the notorious VX gas. Having discussed these deadly chemicals, let's look at the aftermath, the impact they have on human life and society. Each of these silent killers leaves a lasting effect that extends far beyond their initial horrifying impact. On an individual level, survivors of chemical attacks suffer from chronic health issues, lung diseases, skin conditions, psychological trauma, and even genetic mutations that can affect future generations. These are not simply weapons that kill and vanish. They linger, affecting those exposed for decades, even for the remainder of their lives. On a societal scale, the effects are equally devastating. Health systems are often overwhelmed, struggling to treat the myriad of complex conditions. Economies crumble under the weight of healthcare costs and lost productivity. Communities are torn apart, with fear and mistrust sewn deep into the social fabric. The environmental costs are staggering. These chemicals can seep into the soil, contaminating water supplies and destroying ecosystems. The recovery process is long and fraught, with some areas remaining uninhabitable for years. Beyond the tangible impacts, there are ethical implications to consider. The use of chemical weapons is a gross violation of human rights. It's a form of warfare that shows blatant disregard for the sanctity of life. Internationally, there has been a concerted effort to ban these weapons. The Chemical Weapons Convention, ratified by nearly 200 nations, prohibits the production, stockpiling, and use of chemical weapons. Despite this, enforcement remains a challenge, and violations continue to occur. This widespread condemnation of chemical weapons reflects our collective understanding of their horrific nature. It's a recognition of the unacceptable suffering they inflict, the irreversible damage they cause, and the long shadows they cast over humanity. The cost of using these silent killers is too high, a cost we must strive never to pay. The aftermath of chemical warfare is a grim reminder of the lengths to which human cruelty can extend and the enduring pain it can inflict. Let us remember, understand, and work tirelessly to ensure such atrocities remain confined to the annals of history. Before we conclude, let's recall what we have learned today. We've journeyed into the dark world of chemical weaponry, unveiling 4 silent killers that have marked history with their deadly touch: sarin, chlorine, mustard, and VX gas. Each of these agents carries its unique, horrifying method of harm. Sarin and VX gas disrupt the nervous system, causing heart failure or suffocation. Chlorine gas chokes its victims, burning their lungs, while mustard gas inflicts painful burns both externally and internally. The aftermath of these weapons is equally devastating, with long-term health, societal, and environmental impacts that linger far beyond the initial attack. It's a stark reminder of the deadly potential held in the hands of conflict, and why we must always strive for peace and diplomacy in resolving disputes. Remember, knowledge is power. By understanding these silent killers, we can better appreciate the importance of peace and diplomacy in resolving conflicts.